Hey there. Have you ever wondered what percentage of SAP projects and then just software projects as a whole actually are considered successful? So, this is Anita Anello with the Wealthy SAP Consultant podcast, and I'm coming to you live each and every day to be able to deliver incredible value. So, recently on some of my live streams, one of the things I've been talking about is the percentage of software projects that aren't considered successful. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I've been referring to this book, How Big Things Get Done. And that's actually gives us some foundation for this conversation right now. So I want to read some statistics to you because you might feel like you're in this camp right now. So it says essentially, this is like an overview for the book, that essentially there's only a tiny percentage, about 5% of software projects and large projects that are considered successful. Now, the definition of success would be on time, on budget, and the intended outcomes have been reached. Now, don't fret. Let's talk about why that is and kind of really what to do to overcome those. So, usually, if we break that down a little bit more, over time, over budget, about 91.5% of projects go over time or over budget. That's painful. Minimal success, about only 8.5% of projects hit both the time and the cost percentages of being on time and on budget. And then benefit overruns, the definition of that is even projects that finish on budget and on time sometimes still fail to deliver on the intended benefits. So you might say, Anita, why are you talking about this today? What's the big deal? So here's the thing. Having been around SAP projects for more than 20 years, I've had my fair share of projects that I helped clients out of escalation, them and their channel partners, because this happens a lot, not because people intend for it to happen. Absolutely not. One of the things I want to talk about today is a concept that's covered in this book. And really, what it talks about is, and I'm going to use his line in particular, the author's lines, it's think slow and act fast. Okay, so what does that actually mean? If I think slow and act fast, really what one of the big premises in project management and successful projects as a whole is when we think slow, it's essentially what the authors are talking about. We've seen this. If you've been around project management, software implementations, 7 and 8 figure projects, hundreds of projects that go into escalations, all that kind of stuff, wave at me right now or put in the comments below. That's me. I've been involved in those projects. One of the things that we've noticed is that sometimes there can be such a familiarity of the software and the solution and the line of business and the industry specific stuff that goes on with these projects that we can assume that we can just dive right in. So one of the things that what I want to do and what I notice is that, especially doing escalation work like I do, is that if we take some time up front to do a little bit more planning. Now, some people we'll call this like a pre-launch meeting. Some people call it phase zero. There's lots of different names that we can use for this, but essentially what we want to do is, and I'm talking to you specifically, you SAP customers, before you even sit down and have big project meetings with your channel partner or in conjunction with what they're doing for you, because they know the software in and out. They know the expertise. They know what it does. They know how to implement it. But really what I would encourage you to do as an SAP customer is to sit down and have a couple of things ready to go and documented. And it doesn't have to take a long time. You don't have to take weeks to do this, but as quickly as you possibly can from the top C-level people in the organization, what I really want you to do is focus on defining your business processes. Now, what I mean by defining your business processes, I literally mean have people in the organization say, this is the process, and we go steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you hand it to somebody who's outside the organization. I always recommend to my clients, write it to a granular level with instructions and screenshots and all that kind of stuff so that my mom could read it and understand it, right? Really, what we want to do is we're not trying to oversimplify and we're definitely not trying to add more work, but what we are trying to do is communicate our business processes to someone outside of our organization that doesn't have that domain expertise in a way that they can understand. And then that actually helps accelerate the time in your implementation. The other thing that I would recommend that you do is be able to decide ahead of time what's going to happen when something gets a little bit off track. Now, I know in our minds, we think, okay, no big deal. We're meeting regularly with our channel partner. If something gets on track, we'll know about it right out of the gate. But the bigger the project gets, the more complex the project gets with ISVs, other third-party solutions, more people on the project, all that kind of stuff. The complexities of people, the complexities of software solutions that make up your total solution that you're implementing to be able to run your business efficiently. With those complexities comes disconnect sometimes within the people in the project. So internally as an organization, what I would recommend is you kind of have a defined chain of command that says that this is what we're going to do when something either feels a little bit off base or we notice that it gets a little bit off pace, because maybe the two indicators that you're always looking for is maybe time-wise where you get a little bit behind schedule and then you don't make up for it quickly. So I'm not saying, oh my gosh, we're one day behind schedule and we have to like pull out the fire drill. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Is something happens, the project time-wise gets a little bit off track and you don't recover in a reasonable amount of time. Now you have to decide what a reasonable amount of time is for you and your business. The other thing that's a great indicator of this is that you are recognizing where the budget is. So C-level executives and above at the customer site, you're watching the budget on the project. Now, the best recommendation I can give you as customers is as clear as possible. I'm going to do two things. Number one is that when you're engaging with your channel partner, try to get their statement of work, their SOW, to be as clear as possible on the hours that it'll take to implement your project. I know that a lot of channel partners, because they don't know until they get into your company and your business and your specifics and your staff, they don't know all the details, but try to get that buffer, that margin for error down as small as possible, and that will help both sides to communicate more effectively. Then the other thing that we can do on these projects to be able to keep them on track and kind of keep them rolling along is to be able to acknowledge, so like I mentioned, when things get a little bit off base, you're gonna have a way to quickly get back in the swing of things, quickly recover without having weeks or months. I've been in projects where they've been years behind schedule, and it is painful to get them back on track, but we do every single time. The other thing that you can do is if you have a customization that needs to be done as a client, an SAP client, and I know tons of channel partners that do this, they have to have clearly defined business practices and processes that are already worked through. They maybe use the agile methodology, whatever method you want as the tool to make sure that your business processes are so clearly defined. Again, you could hand them to someone outside of your organization who does not know your industry, your business processes, and they could follow your instructions. So if you're doing a customization, make sure that you have those so clearly defined. Because here's the thing, if you haven't been in some of these big SAP projects, or it's been a while since you've done one, maybe you're like a SAP ECC client, and you're getting ready to do an upgrade to grow, or you're new to SAP and you want to go over to RISE or whatever that looks like, you want to make sure that you have those business processes so clearly defined so that the roadmap to go forward is one that's as clear and what's the right word? As clear and as smooth as possible. There we go. The other thing that we want to keep in mind, and you might notice this in your organization, different personality styles have different ways to communicate. And typically your end users or business unit managers over a business process inside your organization, you might say the same words as somebody super technical on your partner's team, but sometimes those two groups of people are not speaking the same language. So making sure you have somebody in there in between to be able to what I call translate between the end user and their business process and the highly technical person on the partner staff. So that's it for today. Just giving you some tips and tricks that are practical and tactical that you can implement in your SAP projects to make those a great success. If you are struggling with your SAP project and you need some help, I'll make sure to put a link down below just to book a discovery call, see if it's something that my team and I can do to help you. So everybody have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow on the Wealthy SAP podcast and live stream.